Do you feel like your insides are disintegrating and you have no idea how you're gonna make it through the next hour, let alone the next week? Then you probably just had a breakup, and this video is for you. Breakups are actually the worst. They are grief. They're grief, but grief that most of society does not take as seriously as they take a death loss. But your brain and your body doesn't know the difference between a breakup and someone dying. In some ways, I would say it's worse than death because you have lost someone who's incredibly important to you and they're still out there walking around. It's very cognitively dissonant. It's so complicated. It's so difficult. Our nervous systems are going to go batshit crazy. In a way, breakups are f***ing epic. It very well can be the catalyst that heals all kinds of things in your life. But in the meantime, it's just painful. I'm excited for the rest of your journey, but you don't need to be excited right now. You just need to take care of yourself. I'm done free associating. Let's get into the video. Hi, baby. You've got this. And for the next 10 minutes, I've got you. My name is Hannah. I'm a psychotherapist and a human who has been through a few truly gnarly breakups. And I'm really hoping this video can offer you a little bit of wisdom and guidance as you navigate the next couple of hours, days, and weeks directly following a breakup, which, in my personal experience, are the most excruciating. The wisdom I'm about to impart to you is going to sound extremely basic. It might even sound obvious. But trust me when I say that now is the time to embrace the basic and embrace the obvious. You just have one mission should you choose to accept it, and that is to treat yourself like you would treat your own newborn baby. I don't care if you have kids or not. I don't care whether you even like babies or not. It doesn't matter, because right now you are a fragile and precious baby and you need your own tender, loving care like nobody's business. So buckle in for some basic ass wisdom. Essential tip number 1, hydrate. That was some epic hydrating. Look, I know everyone and their dog is talking about hydrating, and by now it's starting to sound like meaningless words, but hydration is important. And trust me when I say that something as seemingly simple and small as dehydration, when you are in this fragile phase, can make all the difference. It can be the determining factor between getting by and utter devastation, especially if you've been crying a lot. Crying is a very dehydrating process, and you might actually need some electrolytes. So drink some coconut water, some healthy electrolytes. I don't care what you have to do, just get some liquid into your beautiful body. Don't let dehydration tip you over the edge of despair. Essential tip number 2, be the possum. And you might be thinking, Hannah, possums are gross, they're weird, they're scavengy. After hearing the story that I'm about to tell you, you might just find possums to be the greatest animal ever. I love them, and I'm going to tell you to be like the possum. I'm gonna be like the possum. Want to know why? Here's why, I'll tell you. Let me just get right down to it. When a possum incurs a traumatic experience, and this usually means a predator coming up to it, it feels like its life is threatened, it plays possum, which basically means that its body mimics death, so that a predator will walk by, see that it's dead, and lose interest. The possum's body gets very, very dead-like, okay? The heart rate goes down, blood pressure goes down, and this whole process is very taxing on the possum's little system. When the predator walks away, when the threat has been eliminated, the possum pops back up, and it does 2 things. The first is that it shakes all over. It like does a possum shake. And the second thing it does is that it cries. Little tears literally come out of its little possum eyes. Aww. And these 2 things help to reset the possum's nervous system so that they can go on and live their best life. The whole shake and cry routine is actually the very thing that prevents the possum from being traumatized by the potentially traumatizing event of a predator walking up to it. What can we learn from this beautiful possum story. In order to recover from a potentially traumatizing event and a very distressing event like a breakup, we have got to get into our bodies and actually physically move through the experience. Let's start off with the crying. Let yourself cry. Let it out. Let the tears flow. Don't let yourself become emotionally constipated, okay? Crying is very important. It actually helps to physically move through the distress. It's part of the healing process. And maybe you're thinking, if I were to let myself cry, I would be crying 24/7. I wouldn't be able to do anything else. That's valid. I get it. One of the hardest things about breakups and any form of grief for that matter is that life goes on. We still have to go to work and go to the grocery store and these mundane tasks. We still have to be functional somewhat in the world. And so yeah, you cannot be crying and totally aggrieved 24/7. At the same time, you do have to make time and space for yourself to physically release what you're feeling, and that means crying. There's one of my favorite moments of the show, Shrinking, when that older therapist is telling the young girl to grieve every day for the length of one song. Give yourself the time and the space for the 2 to 5 minutes to listen to a song and just fully be in your grief. If you just went through a breakup, you probably need a little bit more time than just the length of one song. But this is a good example of striking that balance between not letting yourself express any emotion whatsoever and being completely debilitated by grief to the extent that you are neglecting yourself in other ways. So strike that balance and do let yourself feel it. Do let yourself cry. Going back to the possum example, what about the shaking? How can we incorporate that as human beings? You could shake if you want to. In fact, I think shaking is a whole thing that people do in trauma recovery, but get some movement in. Most likely the idea of going out and hitting the gym right now probably sounds terrible to your mind, body, and soul. If it doesn't, great, go for it. But you don't need to do some super intense workout in order to reap the benefits of movement. A slow walk will do just fine. Some yoga would be great. If you can get outside, that's got some little extra bonus points for getting some sunlight. But move your body. Moving is going to help to process the event, and it's going to get you out of your head, which is really, really important. And if you are exercising, keep hydrating. Essential tip number 3, get your rest. Sleep is important all of the time, but now more than ever, you really need your rest. Sleep is actually the time in which your brain is processing difficult experiences, making sense of them, and essentially healing itself. So sleep is absolutely vital. You may find yourself needing more sleep than usual. That is normal and that is fine. Take the extra rest. There's also a good chance that you're going to struggle either falling asleep or staying asleep because your mind is going to be churning with all kinds of painful thoughts and feelings. If sleep becomes a big issue, if you're finding that night after night you're not able to get to sleep, this is worth seeing a doctor about because again, sleep is so vital to your mental health, physical health, all the kinds of health. Make sure that you are getting sleep. And now let's talk about sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene is super boring, but it's super necessary and super important. And I found that a lot of people don't actually know the basics of sleep hygiene, so let's just go over those really quickly right now. In order to get a good night's sleep, you're going to want to abstain from having a really large meal or having a big workout close to bedtime. You're also going to want to turn off any and all screens at least 30 minutes before going to bed. If you find that you cannot fall asleep or you wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep, don't stay in bed. Don't toss and turn, because when you're doing that, you are teaching your brain to associate wakefulness with your bed, which you don't want to do, because then your brain's going to be like, ooh, I'm in bed, time to be awake. Obviously, you don't want that. So if you're finding yourself awake in your bed, get out of your bed. Ideally, go to a different area of your home or even a different room and do some kind of activity that is not on a screen. So reading can be great, putting on some headphones and listening to some music or doing a meditation or a sleep hypnosis can be really great. Do something that is not just lying in your bed and tossing and turning. Some other tips for sleep hygiene are to take a hot shower close to your bedtime and to set your thermostat a little bit lower. I really like listening to sleep hypnosis and or sleep meditations if I'm finding it difficult to fall asleep. You can find some really great free options for this on YouTube. Of course, be conscious of the fact that there is a screen, so finding some way maybe to listen to it but not look at your screen. Essential tip number 4. This is a big one. This is a big one. This is one that I personally, during my last breakup, did not abide, okay? I did not embrace this tip until I had learned it the hard way. It's so important, and that is to stay away from alcohol. Okay? Stay away from alcohol and any substance that could potentially cause you a hangover. So use your discretion to figure out what those substances are, but anything that's going to leave you feeling depleted or worse off than you were before you had the substance. This is a tricky one, okay? Not only is alcohol a huge part of our culture, I've also found that it's like this weird cultural rite of passage that we see perpetuated in music and movies and memes, that if you just had a breakup, it's time to get wasted and either go out and have a rebound or stay at home staring at the wall and crying. I'm gonna say something potentially radical, okay? And I wouldn't say it if I didn't think that it was really going to help you. And that is that while you are in this time of grieving and heartbreak, that you eliminate alcohol completely. If you've never tried sobriety before, now's your chance. See it as a little experiment. See how you like it. At least eliminate or reduce alcohol to the degree that you will not experience a hangover. If you are anything like me, that means eliminating alcohol entirely, because one drink will make me drunk and then hungover. The hangover. Even on healthy days when you're not struggling mentally and you're not heartbroken and or depressed, a hangover can be extremely taxing, not just physically, but mentally as well. I can look back now and say that the worst days that I had in my last breakup were the days in which I drank and or was hungover. It just causes feelings of anxiety and depression, and it's really, really taxing on the body in a way that you just can't afford right now. You cannot afford to be hungover. Take care of your precious, beautiful baby self. Remember, you're a precious baby. You don't feed your baby alcohol. You just don't. So consider doing yourself this massive favor. Okay, experiment with sobriety, become your hottest, sexiest, sober self, and you can always go back to it later when you're feeling better emotionally. Essential tip number 5 is to eat real food, as much as you can anyway. When you go through a really painful experience like a breakup, some people are going to experience a spike in their appetite. Other people are going to experience the total elimination and degradation of their appetite. No matter which camp you fall into, make sure that to the best of your ability, you are getting all 3 macronutrients and, sprinkling in some fruits and veggies here and there where you can. I understand that this can be really difficult, so do it in a way that feels sustainable and possible to you, but do remember to eat. Do remember to fuel, because your body needs fuel and your brain needs that fuel as well to heal. A little hack for this, especially if you're finding it really difficult to eat food at all, is to eat smoothies that have some healthy fats and some protein, because these are easier to digest and they tend to be pretty healthy. Just think of the fact that your brain is actually working overtime right now. It is working so hard to try to make sense of what has happened and to heal you and to recover from this really painful thing. So it needs fuel, it needs sleep, it needs water, it needs sobriety, it needs all these different things. That is all you really need to focus on during this really critical time period. Basic self-care. There will be plenty of time in the future to consciously process what has happened, to make sense of what has happened, but for now, while you are in this survival mode, this really intense amount of emotional pain, just focus on that radically gentle self-care. Remember, you are a precious baby. You need all the love, all the care, all the nourishment that you possibly can get. And that's it. I really hope this was helpful. I will definitely be making more videos on breakups shortly, because this is one of my favorite topics. So I will definitely be going into different phases of the breakup journey. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you very soon. Goodbye.